All right, this is going to be my first attempt at sanding cabinets, and I'm just going to start with this corner right here and make sure the color that we selected is what we want. I've seen some videos where you talk about, do you empty out the cabinets first if you're not going to be painting the inside? I'll probably empty this out just because I'm going to be sanding and I don't want to get that on anything, so I probably will. All right, so what are you going to need? Well, we're going to start off with this medium sandpaper for the cabinets. After I put on the coat of primer, I'm going to be using this Find just to smooth that out. These are painter's tripods, which I'm currently using for this guy right here, this door. I also have these bumpers cabinets, so your cabinets don't slam. You know, they got some cushion, because when you paint this, you're going to want to scrape off your old ones. And after you do that, obviously you want some new ones to put on there. Painter's tape, of course, a brush, a roller. For the bonding primer, I'm using this stain blocking binding primer from Valspar. This is from Lowe's. For the paint, I'm using this Bare Premium Cabinet Door and Trim Enamel. So enamel for that hard shell. And this particular color I'm using is Tranquil Gray. Also have my scraper, small screwdriver, which is good because you don't have a lot of room sometimes when you're undoing the hardware for the cabinets. So good not to have a real long screwdriver. And I've seen some videos where there's this specific cleaner that they've used. This is just some dishwashing liquid soap, some Dawn, and then a washcloth I'm going to use to wipe this down before sanding. And I'm going to keep this handy. This is something good to keep handy when you accidentally spill and you just quickly pick it up. So, all right, it's time to get started with sanding. All right, let's get started with the sanding. I'm a little nervous about that because once you start sanding, there's no going back. I already taped. I don't know if I was supposed to do that yet or not, or do the sanding first and then the painting. But here's that medium grip. And let's get going and see how much it takes to kind of get this scuffed up and ready for primer. So I'm seeing it a little bit faded, but not like what I've seen in the videos, which was more faded than this and definitely a lot more dust and stuff. But you can see here, the finish is definitely faded. So I guess I'll go over this probably a lot more and try to make sure that that finish is completely removed before I do that primer. All right, so the sanding of this section is done, and I should say I wiped this down first with that washcloth and the hot water with a little bit of dishwashing liquid inside it. I was actually surprised on how much sanding I had to do to get that finish off. And this was with medium grit. If I did fine grit, I would have been doing this all day long. So got the outsides, got the insides. I think that's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this down, and then I'm gonna go ahead and apply the primer. But I've heard people say how much work this is. There is no way I would do all the cabinets or attempt to do all the cabinets in one day. If this works out and it looks perfect and we decide to do the rest of the kitchen, it will definitely be section by section. So here I think I'm done sanding, and it's like, wait a minute, well, you gotta sand the door too. So make sure you sand that door, both sides, all the nooks. This is kind of a cool thing. This sander just fit right in for this section. And by the way, these tripods, when you're sanding, this tends to shake so much that it just knocks it off. But you can kind of just use your hands since there's no paint on it. So you really don't have to use the tripods for this. All right, time to put on the primer. I moved the primer from the gallon to this container here. I don't want to leave a gallon of primer or paint open for an extended period of time. So I just want to pour some of that in this container and seal that and gallon up right away. I've seen a video where the presenter said the coat of primer that you use Doesn't matter too much because you're going to be applying 2 coats of paint over this. But then I was looking at the comments and they said, don't believe it. There's somebody who didn't put on a good coat of primer, and then the grain of the wood was coming through and showing on the paint. So I'm going to take that advice of that commentator, and you really want to look at the comments on any of these videos to see what people say. I'm going to take that advice and I'm going to layer this on pretty good. All right, so the primer is on. Is this a good amount that I layered on good? I don't know, but I guess it's all right. It seems to be pretty good coverage. Definitely good having this laying around because there was splatter and there was areas I wanted to pick up, and of course the quicker you pick up, the easier it is. And got this side of the door. These tripods for me were a pain in the ass. I've seen videos where people just paint these things on these tripods with no problem. For me, it kept slipping and falling. It was kind of aggravating. When doing this, you do want to make sure that it, paint or primer doesn't build up in these corners. Per manufacturer instruction, this is supposed to dry for 30 minutes. But if you're going to add like a coat of something right afterwards, not paint, then it's supposed to be an hour, but I think normally it's just half an hour. And these doors do extend the time this takes because this is one side, and from what I've seen in the videos, you want to do the back first, but then you got to flip it around and do the other side. So these doors are going to extend the time it takes to get this project done. We're about 20 minutes in, and I should mention you want to get that tape removed as soon as you're done painting because this does dry quick. If you wait too long removing that tape, then you're going to have a mess. You're going to have a bunch of flakes that come off. So this is almost dry. I said 30 minutes, but it was an hour based on a latex top coat. If you're going to apply that after the primer, which we're not going to do since I'm using enamel, I'm not going to use any kind of clear top coat for additional durability. Maybe if you're using a latex paint, where if you spilled something and scrubbed pretty good, the paint would start coming off. You would want some of that extra durability of that top coat. But since I'm using the enamel, I don't plan on doing it. Now, as soon as this is dry, am I good to go with painting? No, I gotta flip this thing over and I gotta paint the other side. All right, so it's been half an hour, so got this flipped over and time to do the other side. And like I said before, from what I've seen, you're supposed to do the back first, let it dry, flip it over, and then do the front. All right, so that's done. And I mentioned to watch out for those corners that you don't get a bunch of primer or paint pulling them. Something you can do is, along with your painting brush, it's obviously going to be full of paint, have another brush, and then you can just kind of lightly go over and make sure that those corners are clear and you don't have that pooling going on. All right, it's now been half an hour, so this is dry. So now it's time to go over this with fine sandpaper. And so this has been half an hour. The other side has been an hour since put the primer on. This has been an hour. And with the fine sanding, obviously you don't want to sand off the primer, but if you have any brush strokes, and I can barely feel a little bit of the brush strokes here for the paint, I will be putting on a roller to kind of minimize those brush strokes. And you want to look out for any pooling. I got a little bit of pooling on the side here. This door, when it was turned upside down and I got this, you can see there's a little bit of pulling on the edge there. Sand that down a little bit, and on the other side as well. All right, lightly sanded this down, so very smooth. Got around the edges. As you can see, the primer did not come off, and then I wiped this down with the washcloth, remove any dust. Same thing over here, very smooth, but look what happened over here when I used a washcloth. This came off, so I'm going to have to sand this again. Apparently not sanded enough. Maybe there was just an extra layer of finish here, but I'm gonna have to sand this down again, reprime it, and then wait another half hour. All right, now finally ready to paint. Resanded this, reprimed it, lightly sanded the primer, wiped it down. This time it's sticking. For the rest of the cabinets, I'm definitely going to be using heavy grit sandpaper. The medium just doesn't cut it. And so I'm going to be using a brush and a roller. So let's go ahead and get started and start putting this on. Of course, the edges first, and then I'll go over the rest with the roller and see how that comes out. And this is the first coat, and then we'll be waiting a couple hours and then putting on the second coat, and then of course the cabinet, and then of course that's the first side of the drawer or the door, and the back side of the door we'll be doing first. All right, let's see how this looks after the first coat. Got the first coat on there, and then once again got that tape off before it dries, so I didn't have to deal with peeling or any issues there. Just get that tape off pretty quickly after you apply the first layer. Really liked how the paint went on with the primer. Went on pretty smooth, went on really nice. I know after the second coat, this is going to look amazing. And also, let's take a look at the door, which, you know, once again, the back first. Let it dry for a couple hours, flip it around, and then do the front of the cabinet. I'm also going to be doing on drip patrol, so I'm going to be going through this in the cabinets and just looking everything over and making sure there's no drips, and if there are, then I'm going to go ahead and take care of those with a clean brush. Also, looks like I was using the tripods wrong. What you want to do is you want to put them on the inside. You see how they're set up there? So not have them here and here, but rather have them on the inside, and that holds this much better, works out much better. In fact, I just have that side done. On this side, I still have on the outside, but I still have enough sturdiness just from doing that I was able to paint this. So the tripods work. So for the people that created these tripods, sorry about everything I said about you and your mother before. My mistake. I just wasn't using them properly. All right, so we'll let these dry and then put on that second coat. If I had to do this over again, I would have put the stove out, pulled it out a little bit first, because you can see here there's an indentation, which should make it easier to tape and prevent paint from getting on it. And if paint did get on it, when you push it back in, nobody would be able to see it. But as it is, this is just something I'm going to have to clean off. All right, so it's been 2 hours. I'm ready to get this second coat on. Got this taped up, got the stove pulled out a little bit this time on drip patrol. I did find a pretty good drip right here, so got that eliminated. Apparently, you know, I just did a Google search for waiting between coats, and it said 2 to 4 hours, so I'm waiting 2 hours, and I don't know if I could have just waited 1 hour, but we'll just leave it at 2. And then of course put the second coat here. Here I did not use the roller, I forgot. I just used a brush, but this time I'll definitely use the roller. And on parts where I can use a roller on, obviously not everywhere, can I use that roller. And then this will be the second coat, but then after 2 hours, I gotta flip this around, do 1 coat, wait 2 hours, and then do the second coat, and then finally I'll be able to put this back on the cabinet. But I am really thrilled with this color, and my wife really likes this color, so this is good to go. Ready to take this show to Broadway, and we're done with this section. Since there's been so much time between coats, there has been a lot of cleanup, so cleaned out this tray, cleaned the brush, cleaned the roller, to go ahead and get everything all set up and ready to go for that second coat. So a lot of cleanup. I just basically run everything under the sink, rinse everything off, until the water's clear, doesn't start running with paint anymore. And then shake everything out, shake out the brush until water's not coming out of it anymore. And then the roller, rinsing that out really good, squeezing it a lot, getting all that paint out. So a lot of cleanup. I usually don't clean the tray. Usually I use liners, but I ran out of them. Didn't feel like going to Lowe's or Home Depot and getting more, so usually I don't clean out that paint tray, but this time I am. So we're going to go ahead and use our brush for, of course, the areas where we can't use that roller, and then for the rest of it, for where we can use it, we'll go ahead and bring that roller in. All right, let's go ahead and get that roller. Just really like the way this goes on here. All right. Let's get some more paint on there. And with this amount, of course, this isn't going to take too long at all. All right, here's how that second coat looks. Looking good, looking like full coverage. Got a little bit of bleeding on the floor there. We'll have to clean that up later. And it looks like my painting tape wasn't thick enough because I got a little bit on the wall here. So I'll have to use some of that paint to touch that up. Going around here, that's all looking good. Got the stove moved back in. And drip patrol, found a few drips here and there. And on the inside, got those cleaned up. And then let's take a look at the door. You notice I got a ugly hole right here. One of the tips in doing this is just use wood filler first to fill anything like that. This is on the inside of the door, so I'm not that concerned, about it if it's there. Also in this video, I didn't talk about numbering the doors because I only had one, but if you're doing 4, 6, 20 doors, you do want to number them and making sure you're putting the exact same door in the same spot, because if there's any variation, it's not going to hang right. So on the videos I've seen, usually they'll take a piece of painter's tape on the inside of the cabinet, mark it with the number, like number 1. And then the best method I used as far as here is just using a Sharpie and putting 1 right on that section right here that doesn't get paint. I've seen other people say use a piece of painter's tape on the door, but then you're going to have to peel that off when you paint. So it seems like using a Sharpie there is the best method. And then using that piece of tape on the inside of the cabinet to match them up, but make sure your doors are going exactly where they were, and that's very important. All right, so it flipped over and put on one coat, waited 2 hours, put on that second coat, and then in a couple hours I will put this back on the cabinet. So I ran into an unexpected issue with this project, and that's putting these hinges back on, and there's actually 2 holes, and I'm not sure which one the screw was in. I'm also having a heck of a time using this rinky-dinky screwdriver to get this screw all the way in. And this is one door with 19 left to go. So I'm probably gonna have to get an angled electric screwdriver to make this easier. And then I'm just gonna have to go through trial and error and see which of the stupid holes that is supposed to have the screw in to bolt this thing on. All right, the painting is done. And let's open this up. I still gotta tighten this down a little bit more. Like I said, I think I'm gonna need an electric screwdriver in order to get that all the way in. Got my bumpers on so that when I close the door, doesn't, you know, make a loud noise. As you can see, this isn't in all the way. It's not the smoothest when I open and close this, but that will be taken care of. Now, something interesting I noticed is the door in the light looks like it's a completely different color than what the cabinet is. And even the trim at the bottom looks like it's lighter. If I turn off the kitchen light, then it looks the same. So it's amazing what that light can do as far as the colors. Here, it looks like it's lighter, but once again, these are the same color. And yeah, in that light, it looks different. We'll see how the rest of it comes up. My neighbors with a similar kitchen had their cabinets and doors and drawers professionally painted. It was $3,000. So doing it myself, I'm spending about $150 with primer, paint, sanders, paintbrush, roller, the tripods, sanding blocks, all that stuff. I'd say about $150. So I am saving about $3,000 doing this myself. Now on the pain in the ass scale, this definitely ranks high, and if people don't want the aggravation, they got the money, go ahead and have this professionally done. Definitely cheaper than new cabinets, but if you're like me and you're able to do this and you have patience and you have the time and you want that $3,000 to go somewhere else, then do it yourself. Thanks for watching.